Hey guys, it's the commish and your league champion who is sick as a dog right now, but I want to get a couple things out there before tonight's first game. I know everybody's getting excited for the season to start. Let's start off with the draft. That was an interesting draft this year. Want to make something kind of clear to everybody with the draft. There's only so much I can do with the draft app, and also I'm drafting my own team, so I'm not paying attention to 100% of what's going on in the chat room. So with house situation this year, and I've said this before, I'm never going to change somebody's pick. I mean, part of the draft is the pressure you're under with the 2 minutes and whatnot. And if I start changing draft picks for one person, everybody, especially Wiz, is going to want that done. So that's never going to happen. Number two, if you are having a problem with your draft, you all have my phone number. You need to call me because, again, I'm not paying 100% attention because I have my own draft that I'm trying to do. So keep that in mind. If you need the draft pause, which I'm always happy to do if it's a legitimate reason, you got to pick up the phone and call me, and that way I will pause the draft. But I will never change the draft pick. We've had a few guys here over the past that have fucked their draft picks up, and they've had to live with it. So it's not anything personal. It's just, the best option is to be prepared. If you screw up, so be it. Again, leagues for fun. It's not a ton of money, so if it happens, you can definitely come back from it. You just got to deal with it. So, number two thing I wanted to make sure everybody's clear on is the IR position. I made a post about it, but I want to make sure everybody understands that position is only for putting players that are out for the entire year that you are looking to stash as a keeper for next year. So, i.e., example-wise, I know a lot of people are going to be looking right now at Percy Harvin, with the information coming out that he may be back by week 7 or week 8. If you do pick up Percy and you stick him in that IR spot, which you're going to be able to do because he's designated IR, you will not be able to play him this year unless you drop him and he goes through waivers. So if you're picking up Percy with the thought that you're going to get a chance to stash him in the IR spot, and then when he's ready to play, put him back in, I will drop him from your roster if you do that. So if you want Percy and you think he's got a shot to play this year, you got to keep him in your regular roster. You cannot IR him. If you IR him, that's fine, but you are not allowed to play him for the rest of the year. And that goes with any player. So, if you get caught putting a player with a questionable or doubtful tag or anything else in there, I'm going to drop him from your roster. So, only people that are allowed to be in that spot are IR players. And if they do become eligible to play at any point, if you want to play him, you better hope you got the number 1 waiver wire spot because you got to drop him, put him through waivers before you can play him. So I just want to make that clear. I know Halth had asked about the IR spot. You cannot draft or you cannot pick up a player and drop him directly into the IR spot. You have to have a roster spot open because you got to put him on your roster first and then put him in IR, and then you can go backfill that other IR spot. So if you're looking to pick up somebody who is on the IR off the waiver wire, you have the option to do it, but you got to have an open roster spot to do it. So just want to make that clear. I don't want to deal with any headaches this year with the IR spot. I know it was a little confusing last year, so just want to get that out of the way. Next, let's look at how everybody did in their draft. I saw Mr. Carney's already put up his 3 keys to championship, and have to agree with his thought on my team. I think I did a really nice job this year again, but let's start with some other teams. We'll start with the Zips. The Zips have had a rough go over here recently, and a couple things I like about his team, a couple things I don't. Well, first off, the thing, if you're keeping a player, you figure he's going to be in there week 1 on your roster, and the fact that Chris Ivory is already on your bench, that's not good. That's not what you want in a keeper. But Cam Newton, I like Cam. I don't know if you paid a great price for him, but I think Cam's in for a good year as long as he can get some help from his receivers. Forte, I think, was one of the better picks he had. Lamar Miller, big question mark. A.J. Green, you had him last year. He's a little bit hot and cold, but he's definitely a top 5 wide receiver. Pierre Garcon, love the pick. Had him last year. If he'd stayed healthy, I think he would have been a top 10 wide receiver. And I think he's got a good shot this year as long as he and RG3 stay healthy. So I like what you did here. Got a couple good backups with Ballard and Christine Michael if Lynch goes down. So good solid start this year. I think borderline playoff team here if things go your way. I think your big question mark here is definitely Cam. If Cam can have another breakout year, you definitely got a good team. If he doesn't, you are definitely going to struggle. Moving on to my other little brother, Tits McGee. He kept Stephen Ridley, great keeper pick, one of the better value keeper picks out there. Matty Ice, gotta love Matty Ice. He won me a championship last year. Adrian Peterson and Frank Gore. I mean, I don't think it gets any better backfield than those four guys right there. A little weak at wide receiver. I think Cobb is a good player. I don't think he's the value that you got. Tompkins, I think he's shit. The only reason anybody likes him is because he's the only wide receiver that's catching balls right now for Brady. But I think once Gronkowski comes back, I think Tompkins is going to be, he's not going to be worth much. Bench-wise, Sidney Rice, Sidney Rice is okay. Stevie Johnson, okay. I mean, Gerhardt. I think you got a good starting five here with, or starting four with Ryan, Ridley, Peterson, and Gore. I think that's probably one of the best backfields out there. The other guys, I don't know. Cobb and Tompkins, if those guys have a great year, I think you're in for a good year. So I definitely see this as a playoff team. Great Wall, 2-year champion ago. Had a rough year last year, and don't see things changing too much. You got Eli, just starting QB. I think that's pretty mediocre. Bush was a good keeper. You paid a big price for him, but I think he's a good keeper. Steven Jackson, is he Michael Turner Jr.? You've had Turner a couple times, so you know what that's like. So we'll see what happens there. Des Bryant, had him last 2 years. Traded him last year. He was awesome after I traded him, so he can go fuck himself. But I think Bryant's a good player. Decker, that's a big question mark now with Welker there. Matthews is horrible. D'Angelo Williams, meh. I don't know. I don't like this team that much. I've been wrong, but I just don't see this team making the playoffs. Buck Power had probably one of the best keeper picks out there with C.J. Spiller. Of course, if his family can stop killing themselves, that would help. But I think Spiller's in for a good year. Ray Rice, good solid pick. Wide receivers a little weak. Roddy White, I think, is definitely on a downward slide. Antonio Brown, I like D'Antonio. I mean, they got nothing else there, so you figure he's in for a pretty good year. Jimmy Graham, I hope he's in for a big year. Vincent Brown plays for probably the worst offense in the league, so I'm not that big on Vincent Brown. Gronkowski is a big wild card here. I think if you can flex out Gronkowski and he comes back to form, this team's definitely going to be one of the better teams. Vic is also a big question mark here. He's got all the intangibles, but he hasn't done shit in about 10 years, so I don't see that changing much. I mean, new offense, even though it's Kelly's offense. We'll see. Definitely a playoff team, though. I like this team. Shitano's Bucks, another good solid team. I think wide receivers are solid with Marshall and Colston. Running backs, I mean, Trent Richardson's a good player. I'm not as high as some other people are on him. Eddie Lacy, that's a big question mark. Is he going to get the touches? And Darren McFadden, wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Amendola, already on the bench, and that's your keeper. That's probably not a good thing. Of course, he's questionable as always. Tony Romo, you gotta like Tony. I mean, he throws the ball enough, but he doesn't. I don't think he's a guy who can ride to a championship. But I think that's a pretty good team. I think it's a borderline playoff team. What we got here? Texans. Start off Doug Martin, good player. RG3 is a keeper. I thought that was solid keeper, not great, but solid. I think he's a good player. Ben Jarvis is terrible. Andre Johnson is good. Victor Cruz, Vernon Davis, good solid tight end. Mike Wallace, not a lot of depth on this team. Bryce Brown, Fred Jackson. I mean, these are guys that if somebody gets hurt are valuable, but not really much else there. I see this team as definitely a playoff potential, and if Doug Martin has another great year, then he could definitely be in the mix for a Super Bowl. Bandwagoneers, this team's a joke. I mean, what are you doing? 3 QBs in the top 7 picks. I know you like to reinvent the wheel every year, but you haven't reinvented shit in about 10 years, and I don't see this as being any better. I mean, Daryl Richardson is, mediocre as a keeper, and he's your number 2 back. LeSean McCoy, he's fine if he stays healthy. Stafford, I mean, I'm okay with Stafford, but 3rd round, that was a big-time reach, and then to back him up with Kaepernick in the 5th, and then Luck in the 7th was retarded. Wide receivers, these are the worst in the league. I mean, Hakeem Nicks has been hurt, and even when he's healthy, he hasn't done anything. And Jordy Nelson, same deal. Even when he's healthy, he hasn't done much. And Lance Moore, Michael Floyd. I mean, I give Wiz credit. He'll work his ass off to make the team better, but you got a lot of work to do here, kid. Blitzkrieg, okay. Brady's solid. Lynch is a good player. Pierre Thomas is a horrible number 2 back. Demaryius Thomas, great player. Reggie Wayne, good solid wide receiver. If he can repeat what he did last year, that would definitely help. Tony Gonzalez, you wonder when he's going to slow down. Bolden as a flex, mediocre. But, good bench. I got James Jones, who I think I would put in there over San Francisco. Well, I guess this week does make sense. But James Jones is a good player. Ronnie Hillman, who knows what's going to happen in Denver. You got a couple decent players down here. I don't know. Good, solid team, but, a lot of work to do on that one, which apparently Blitzkrieg is against using the waiver wire, so I don't see this team making playoffs. Bone Crushers. Love Peyton Manning. I think he's in for a monster year. I thought he was one of the better keeper picks, even though the round value wasn't there. Charles, definitely love Charles. I think he's in for a monster year, too. Redmond's a very mediocre number 2 running back, but if he can hold the job, he'll be valuable. Julio, love Julio. Fitzgerald, I think he's in for a good year as long as Palmer stays healthy. Olsen, solid tight end. Dwayne Bowe is one of the guys I like too. I don't like having 2 KC players, but Dwayne Bowe and Jamal Charles, I think both could have some good years. And Russell Wilson, backup QB, is good. He's got another Mendenhall. I like this team. I think Bone Crushers had a nice draft this year. So I think he's going to be one of the competitive teams. Definitely has an opportunity to get his number 2 championship. Thugs. Foster, big question mark there. That was a tough first-round pick. I mean, you hate not drafting him, but you got to worry about that injury. David Wilson, everybody's high on him. I can see why. I think he's got a lot of talent, so that's a good pick. Wide receivers, God, those are bad. I mean, you're right there with Wisda. Austin is your number 1 wide receiver. Not good. Golden Tate, they don't throw the ball enough to make him that valuable. Sproles, love Sproles. So running back-wise, are in great shape. Quarterback's horrible. Wide receivers are bad. I don't know, buddy. I think you got a lot of work to do here. I think you need to trade some of these running backs. You got Gio and Bradshaw on the bench. I think you need to turn 1 or 2 of those guys into a good quality wide receiver. I think you'd be in better shape. So, but we'll see. Deeks. I think you did a good job with your draft. I mean, you got Rodgers and Chris Johnson, CK2 looked good in preseason, so you never know. It could be in for a better year. I actually like Vereen better than McFadden. I wouldn't, as I said, wouldn't have touched McFadden. So Vereen's a wild card, but they did draft him ahead of Ridley, so you never know. He could turn into a good pick. Vincent Jackson, I'm not as high on him as I was last year because Bucks look like shit right now, but he's a top 10 wide receiver. Torrey Smith, another solid receiver. Monty Ball. We got good depth here with Chris Givens and Danny Woodhead and Ingram. I mean, I think you got a playoff team here. So keep your chin up, Deeks. I think you're in decent shape right now. I think the computer may have drafted some better players than you were looking at drafting. So, and then last but not least, we got my team. I think I did a good job. Breeze wasn't what I was hoping to do in the second pick. I was looking at taking Dez, but Howie chucked him from me, so good job there. But my keys to my success are DeMarco Murray and Wes Welker. If those guys can produce at the level that their talent is, I think I'm in for another good year, maybe a 5th championship. I mean, I'm running out of fingers to put these rings on, so I need some competition here. I got my baseball ring. I think I'm going to put that one here. I got my NFL rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm already on the second hand with my college ring. So we had another NFL ring. I mean, I'm going to start putting these rings on my feet soon. So I need you guys to keep up, man. I'm looking good. I got Blackman in 4 weeks. I think he was a steal where I got him. T.Y. Hilton, I think he's in good shape too there. Ben Tate, I'm looking at you, thugs. I'm waiting for Foster to go down. Ben Tate turns into a top 5 running back. That would be gold if that happens. So, but I think we're in for a good year. I think everyone did a good job in the draft. I don't think there's any real bust except for Wisda. Wisdom, I'm waiting for the post for the $50 or $100 or whatever you want to bet this year, because I think you're going to get a lot of takers this year. Looking forward to the Gator game this weekend. Prediction, Gators 28, Miami 17. I think that's what we're looking at. So looking forward to your feedback, and good luck this year, fellas.